This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Monday, May 13th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Pro-Palestinian demonstrations take over at some college commencement ceremonies.
I think that was our form of speech.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Israel vows to go it alone in Rafah as a State Department report says Israel likely violated international law. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Former lawyer Michael Cohen is going to testify against the former president in his hush money trial. Julie Walker, New York.
A police officer in the Cleveland suburb of Euclid was shot and killed while answering a disturbance call Saturday night. I'm Mike Hempin.
On Wall Street, stocks opened this morning after a winning week last week. This week, it's going to be all about inflation. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A statue of the late Reverend Billy Graham set to stand inside the U.S. Capitol will be unveiled. Norman Hall, Washington.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Graduation season is underway at American colleges and universities. The weekend brought a number of walkouts and continued pro-Palestinian demonstrations on a number of campuses. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
At Duke University in North Carolina, a group of pro-Palestinian supporters walked out of the commencement ceremony after comedian Jerry Seinfeld, who's Jewish and has voiced support for Israel, took the stage.
Jerry is also serving as our commencement speaker today.
Some tried to drown out the protesters with chants and boos, and Seinfeld kept going with the speech.
I am here today at the gracious invitation of President Price and the Duke Board of Trustees because after spending 4 years at what is considered one of the finest institutions of higher education in the world, they apparently feel that perhaps some light entertainment will get you all to the final realization, I think I've really had enough of this place.
At Virginia Commonwealth University, students walked out of that ceremony as Governor Glenn Youngkin gave the commencement speech.
Please join me in welcoming our commencement speaker, Governor Glenn Youngkin.
Students in caps and gowns left mid-speech in protest of America's support for Israel.
What a distinct privilege it is to join you this morning.
At USC in LA, the valedictorian who had voiced support for Palestine was cheered on by her classmates at a scaled-down ceremony after her speech was called off by the school.
Asna Tabasum.
Students there happy that she ultimately was recognized. KNBC TV spoke with some of them.
That was awesome. Everyone around me was cheering as loud as they could. It really felt like a unified front, so it was great.
It was good. I think that was our form of speech. We voiced our opinion through that cheer and support.
Sonoma College administrators moved the graduation ceremony after threats of anti-Semitic demonstrations to an off-site location, and dozens of students walked out of a graduation at Rutgers. All of this days after a violent clash between protesters, counter-protesters, and police at UCLA late last week. Across the country in Baltimore, protesters occupying a pro-Palestinian encampment on Johns Hopkins University since late April have now reached an agreement to take down that encampment in exchange for what's being described as a timely review of protesters' key question of divestment by the university. I'm Clayton Neville.
As Israel celebrated their Memorial Day yesterday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu continued to indicate they're ready to go it alone and invade Rafah with or without United States assistance. John Stolnis has more on reaction from lawmakers in Washington.
A new report by the State Department released late Monday finds reasonable evidence that Israel breached international law in how they've conducted the war in Gaza. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on NBC's Meet the Press.
It's reasonable to assess, as we say in the report, that there are instances where they've acted inconsistent with their obligations under international humanitarian law.
Republicans like Senator Lindsey Graham, also on Meet the Press, hammering the Biden administration for their assessment and reluctance to provide offensive weapons to Israel for an invasion of the city of Rafah.
Why is it okay for America to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end their existential threat war? Why was it okay for us to do that? I thought it was okay. To Israel, do whatever you have to do.
The report is the strongest statement yet by the Biden administration against Israel's conduct, saying their use of weapons provided by the U.S. likely violated international law, but that the wartime conditions prevent them from determining if U.S. weapons were used in certain airstrikes. It also argues some airstrikes have led to heavy civilian casualties that were disproportionate to the value of any military target. Republican House Foreign Affairs Chairman Michael McCaul tells ABC's This Week the timing of this report will only contribute to anti-Israel sentiment.
Israel didn't start this war. Hamas started this war, and Israel's going to finish this war.
Democratic Senator Chris Coons on ABC's This Week defending President Biden's refusal to help Israel attack Rafah.
You can continue this war against Hamas, but if you're going to use our munitions and continue to have our support, you have to do it in a way that minimizes civilian casualties.
On ABC's This Week, UNICEF spokesperson Tess Ingram says as Israel warns citizens to leave Gaza, there is no safe place for them to go.
It's not just safety from the bombardments that they need, it's also a safe place to go to, and the places where people are being told to move to are completely unsafe.
John Stolnis, Washington.
Those are the top stories of the day, sponsored by Sleep Number. Save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed for a limited time only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com. Trump fixer to take the witness stand when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back, and thanks for listening. An update on the national forecast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
In the south, an energetic pattern has returned to areas that really could use a break from the rain, with yet another formidable storm developing over the central and southern plains that will bring significant impacts through the start of the work week. Sunday brought intense downpours to parts of Louisiana, Arkansas, and East Texas, and these same areas face the risk for severe thunderstorms today as storms redevelop over already soaked ground, bringing the additional threat for flooding along with the typical risks of hail, damaging wind gusts, and even some tornadoes from Texas across Arkansas and as far east as the Florida Panhandle through the night. Through Tuesday, a wide swath of 4 to 8 inches of rain can be expected near and just inland from the central Gulf Coast. Otherwise, much of the rest of the east looks to be dry today, with high pressure off the mid-Atlantic coast supporting quieter conditions. However, the next approaching storm may be able to deliver a few showers to parts of mainly northern New England and New York State. As that storm advances eastward through midweek, look for precipitation to spread across the Tennessee and Ohio River valleys and through the eastern seaboard, bringing numerous showers and some areas of steadier rain as a generally wet pattern takes shape. For the western half of the country, many places should get out to a rather dry start today, thanks to a couple of cores of weak high pressure. However, a couple of weather fronts over the region will be able to spark some widespread afternoon thundershowers, especially in the higher terrain from Wyoming into Montana and Idaho, and even southward through Colorado, as well as in California's Sierra Nevada mountains, with rain showers instead in western Washington. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. After spending the weekend campaigning, Donald Trump returns to a New York City courtroom. As correspondent Julie Walker reports, today's testimony will come from Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen.
He once said he'd take a bullet for Donald Trump. Now his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, is going to testify against the former president in his hush money trial. Cohen paid Stormy Daniels $130,000 to keep quiet about what she testified to as a sex encounter with Trump, which he denies. Prosecutors say the crime was Trump reimbursing Cohen for the hush money. Trump denies this.
If anything's mentioned against certain people, and you know who they are, certain people, anything's even mentioned, he wants to put me in jail. And that could happen one day, and I'd be very proud to go to jail for our Constitution.
At a campaign event Saturday, said the case is politically motivated.
I'm being forced to endure a Biden show trial, all done by Biden.
Cohen expected on the stand Monday. Julie Walker, New York.
In the state of Ohio, flags will be placed at half-staff following the fatal shooting of a Cleveland area police officer. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports.
Investigators say some officers were dispatched to a home after a report of a disturbance. They say as the officers were investigating, a gunman ambushed one of them and shot him. That officer was taken to a hospital where he died. Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost identifies the slain officer as Jacob Durbin. Yost says he was in his first year with the department. I'm Mike Hempen.
Late Sunday night, the suspect identified as 24-year-old Deshaun Vaughn was found dead in a home that police surrounded during their manhunt. Consumer sentiment when we return on America in the Morning after these messages. Welcome back. Here with America in the Morning. The Business Report is sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. With the Monday Report, here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens after a mixed Friday for the markets and a winning week for the major averages. The Dow is riding an 8-day winning streak, its longest since last year. It was a good weekend to take a peek at that 401k if you have one and have an S&P 500 index fund in there.
From that 6% correction, we've rallied about 5% back almost to the old highs over the course of the last 3 weeks or so. We've had a pretty good earnings season.
Federated Hermes Phil Orlando on CNBC. Consumer sentiment took a little dip last month, according to the University of Michigan.
That initial read of sentiment falling in May as inflation expectations rose. Sentiment down 10 points from April, but still higher than it was a year ago.
CNBC's Kelly Evans. Exxon's CEO getting a thumbs down from a major whale investor, the California pension system.
CalPERS, the largest U.S. public pension fund, is considering a vote against ExxonMobil CEO Darren Woods' re-election to the company's board of directors. In comments to the Financial Times, the $463 billion pension plan says it is deeply concerned about Exxon's twin lawsuits challenging shareholder discontent. It adds, quote, "There doesn't seem to be anything other than an agenda of sending a message of shutting down shareholders' ability to speak their mind."
CNBC's Silvana Hanau. Hollywood bracing for an okay summer movie season. It starts in less than 2 weeks with the Memorial Day holiday weekend.
The summer box office is seen as the most important time of the year for Hollywood. It's when big budget investments pay off and build franchises. Year to date, the box office is down 21% from last year, according to ComScore. Now, there are some big franchise releases coming, including Deadpool and Wolverine and Inside Out from Disney and Despicable Me 4 and Twisters from Universal. But there is no indication of a phenomenon like last summer's Barbenheimer.
CNBC's Julia Borston. Universal is a sister company to CNBC.
A rising tide lifts all boats. How's that working out for consumers in this economy?
You know, a strong job market and wages, that's carried Americans longer than many thought. The CNBC National Retail Federation Monitor, which uses real credit card spending data, found consumers pulled back a little on restaurants and food last month, but they spent more elsewhere.
Much of the weakness looks concentrated in the restaurant and food sectors, and our headline index rising 0.3%. Easter was in April a year ago, but it was in March this year, and this April had 2 fewer weekend days. That could explain some of the weakness, but it's worth being mindful of whether consumers may be balking at higher prices when it comes to eating and dining out.
CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman. On today's watch list, it's the latest on inflation at the wholesale level. The PPI will be out this morning, the Producer Price Index.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, the Biden administration steps in on credit card late fees after these messages. Back with you on America in the Morning. Federal authorities are investigating after a cyber attack forced a nationwide health system to divert ambulances and take records offline. Lisa Dwyer reports.
A cyber attack on the Ascension Health System, operating in 19 states across the U.S., forced some of its 140 hospitals to divert ambulances, caused patients to postpone medical tests, and blocked online access to patient records. A spokesperson for Ascension says it detected what it called unusual activity on its computer network systems. Officials have not yet said whether the nonprofit Catholic healthcare system was the victim of a ransomware attack, but the attack had all the hallmarks of one. Ambulances were diverted from Ascension hospitals in Kansas and Florida. In Milwaukee, patients missed CT scans and mammograms. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Not so fast on paying fees on your credit cards. Correspondent Norman Hall reports on court action blocking lower credit card late fees proposed by the Biden administration.
The temporary nationwide injunction imposed by Judge Mark Pittman is a win for big banks and major credit card companies. They collect billions in revenue each year in late fees, and we're looking to stop the proposal from going into effect next week. Critics of the lawsuit have called the case the latest example of judicial forum shopping, where a company files a lawsuit in a friendly district in order to have a greater likelihood of getting a favorable ruling. I'm Norman Hall.
America in the Morning for Monday, May 13th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, the largest political rally in New Jersey history. Julie Walker has that story.
Israel is pushing deeper into the southern Gaza town of Rafah. I'm Karen Shamas.
2 American states set to hold primaries tomorrow. I'm Clayton Neville.
The U.S. is announcing more military aid for Ukraine. Sagar Magani, Washington.
The Biden administration plans big tariffs on some Chinese electric vehicles and an update on the man who received the first ever pig kidney transplant.
Thousands of Taylor Swift fans are following the star to Europe after finding that tighter restrictions on ticket fees made catching her show there less costly. I'm Jennifer King.
Back after these messages. Welcome back. Here with America in the Morning. The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed for a limited time only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com. Showers on the East Coast today? Let's get the answer from AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
After showers around the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic on Mother's Day Sunday, much of the East should at least be dry today as high pressure off the Mid-Atlantic coast promotes some fleeting drier conditions. However, a storm approaching from the Great Lakes likely pops up some showers today, especially from upstate New York across New England. Once that storm presses to the east into Wednesday, thunderstorms spread across the south and into the southeast, showers and even some steadier rain for the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, with no guarantee of any extended dry spells on the horizon for most. The western United States faces a mainly dry start to the day today under high pressure. Later today, though, a couple of features in the area bring the risk of widely separated afternoon thunder showers from Ohio, Wyoming, and Montana into parts of Colorado and perhaps even northeastern Utah, along with the Sierra Nevada mountains, with rain showers instead near the Washington coastline. In the south, rain returns where it is not needed, with another storm building across the plains and delivering troublesome conditions to start this week. This includes the risk for severe thunderstorms today, with flooding downpours, hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes all possible from eastern Texas through Arkansas and even into the Florida Panhandle by later Monday night. Through the day Tuesday, up to 4 to 8 inches of rain can be expected near and along the central Gulf Coast. In Dallas, Texas, look for a humid and warmer Monday with an afternoon thunderstorm and a high of 83. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Donald Trump's New York City trial will be front and center today with his former fixer, Michael Cohen, set to testify. But over the weekend, Trump campaigned in Wildwood, New Jersey. His court proceedings, a part of that address, as well as a number of jabs at President Biden. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Donald Trump taking a break from his hush money trial, campaigning at the Jersey Shore with what his team called a mega crowd.
As you know, I've come here from New York, where I'm being forced to endure a Biden show trial, all done by Biden.
And blasting the president.
The whole world is laughing at him. He's a fool. He's not a smart man. He never was. Tonight, I'm officially calling on Joe Biden and the Democrat National Committee to return the donations of all anti-Semites, American haters, and financiers of chaos who have funded the chaos on our campuses. Return the money, Joe. They raise plenty of money. When I'm president, we will not allow our colleges to be taken over by violent radicals. And if you come here from another country and try to bring jihadism or anti-Americanism or anti-Semitism to our campuses, we will immediately deport you. You'll be out of that school.
Biden carried New Jersey in 2020. Trump wants to change that this time.
We're expanding the electoral map because we are going to officially play in the state of New Jersey. We're going to win the state of New Jersey.
I'm Julie Walker.
The situation in Gaza intensifies as the Israeli Defense Forces move deeper into Rafah, the last remaining Hamas stronghold in the enclave, and Palestinians heeded the warnings from Israel and moved to safe zones north of the fighting. As correspondent Karen Shamas reports, this comes as the Biden administration has put on hold some weapons shipments to Israel, a big topic on the Sunday shows, as Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Senators Bernie Sanders and Lindsey Graham each had differing viewpoints and spoke on NBC's Meet the Press.
The quickest way for this to end is for Hamas to give up the hostages. We will get a ceasefire that we can build on and build to something more lasting and more durable.
Israel has broken international law. It has broken American law. And in my view, Israel should not be receiving another nickel in U.S. military aid.
After Pearl Harbor, fighting the Germans and the Japanese, we decided to end the war by bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki with nuclear weapons. That was the right decision. Give Israel the bombs they need to end the war they can't afford to lose and work with them to minimize casualties.
Israel is pushing deeper into the southern Gaza town of Rafah, as Egypt says it intends to join South Africa's case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. Israeli military footage showed Israeli soldiers shooting in northern Gaza as it also moved deeper into the southern town of Rafah. Israel continues to push into the town despite objections from the US and the rest of the international community. 300,000 people have fled Rafah on evacuation orders from Israel.
Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are fleeing Rafah after the Israeli Defense Forces ordered further evacuations from the southern city, leading afresh to massive displacement of an already profoundly traumatized population.
The UN humanitarian chief Volker Turk said,
"The latest evacuation orders affect close to 1 million people in Rafah. So where should they go now? There is no safe place in Gaza."
The latest move has also prompted Egypt to announce it would be joining South Africa at a UN top court to allege Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. While Israel rejects the claim, Egypt released a statement citing the worsening severity and scope of the Israeli attacks against Palestinian civilians. I'm Karen Shamas.
America in the Morning continues. 2 eastern states will hold primaries tomorrow. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports the focus will be on key Senate races.
Maryland and West Virginia have primaries tomorrow. And in Maryland, in a key race for a Senate seat there, the winner of Congressman David Trone and Prince George's County Exec Angela Alsobrooks will face Larry Hogan, who's raised big money in his race. Trone, who co-owns the Total Wine chain, has shelled out big bucks on the campaign trail too, airing a slew of ads.
I will continue to vote to protect abortion and IVF, and I will work with our friends in the reproductive justice movement to secure our civil rights for future generations.
Also, Brooks has come on strong in recent weeks, and polls show the two candidates neck and neck ahead of the primary.
It's Cory Booker. Hey, everyone. May 14th is the primary for Angela Brooks. Please go out there and vote. Your vote is your voice.
Also, Brooks has been getting endorsements from big political names. Senator Cory Booker and even Jamie Raskin.
I've got exciting news. I'm here with my friend Angela Brooks. I'm supporting her for the U.S. Senate. She's going to deliver for the people of Maryland every day as United States Senator, at the same time that she's going to be defending democracy and freedom against Donald Trump and the MAGA right.
A win for Also Brooks in Maryland would make her the first black woman elected to the Senate in that state. In West Virginia, voters will vote on races including governor, Senate, and the House. It's possible, as Joe Manchin leaves his post in the Senate, that West Virginia won't have any Democrats in Congress. 6 Republicans facing off to be the Republican nominee for governor in West Virginia. As Governor Jim Justice is term limited, he's also in the Senate race to replace Manchin. I'm Clayton Neville.
This U.S. Senator goes on trial for corruption charges. We have that and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. I'm John Trout. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. As Russia continues their advance, the U.S. is sending more military aid to Ukraine. Correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
The $400 million package comes amid what Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said is a really difficult situation in the east. Adding with more weapons will be able to stop them. The package includes rocket systems, Patriot missiles, artillery rounds, and armored vehicles, among other things.
And all of those will be useful to them as they try to defend against Russian offensive moves.
White House National Security spokesman John Kirby notes the weapons are coming from existing U.S. stocks, so they can get to the war front faster. It's the third aid package since Congress passed funding for Ukraine 3 weeks ago.
In the coming weeks, Russia will likely increase the intensity of fires and commit additional troops in an attempt to establish a shallow buffer zone along the Ukrainian border. We are confident in the Ukrainian armed forces, and we are working around the clock to get them the equipment, the tools, the weapons that they need to defend against these attacks.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
New Jersey's senior U.S. Senator Bob Menendez heads to court this week on corruption charges. Following the case, correspondent Pamela Furr.
Prosecutors say the former Democrat chairman of the powerful Senate Foreign Relations Committee and his wife Nadine accepted bribes for favors from several New Jersey businessmen and the governments of Egypt and Qatar. Those alleged bribes were paid for in gold bars, a new Mercedes, and lots of cash. Menendez has pleaded not guilty, has refused to resign from office, and has even gone so far as to announce he's running for re-election.
All I can ask of you is to withhold judgment until justice takes place.
His wife, Nadine, who has also pleaded not guilty, will not go to trial until July. Her trial delayed because of some medical issues. This is the second time in a decade Menendez has faced corruption charges. In 2015, he was indicted on charges involving a wealthy Florida eye doctor accused of buying the senator's influence through luxury vacations and campaign contributions. That trial ended in a deadlocked jury, and the feds decided to abandon the case. I'm Pamela Furr.
The Biden administration is planning to announce new tariffs on electric vehicles, semiconductors, solar equipment, and medical supplies imported from China. More on the story from correspondent Lisa Dwyer.
According to a U.S. official and another person familiar with the plan, the tariffs on electric vehicles in particular could quadruple from the existing 25% to 100%. The Biden administration has also said it will investigate Chinese-made smart cars that can gather sensitive information about Americans driving them. The additional tariffs could carry some political weight going into the November presidential election. Both Biden and former President Donald Trump have told voters that they will be tough on China, which is the world's second largest economy and an emerging geopolitical rival. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
A Massachusetts man who became the first ever recipient of a kidney from a pig 7 weeks ago has passed away. Richard Stamen had already endured a transplant with a human kidney, but it had to be removed following complications. He was receiving 3 times a week dialysis before agreeing to the experimental pig kidney procedure. Massachusetts General Hospital released a statement saying they have no indication Stamen's death was the result of that most recent transplant. A new statue honoring the late Reverend Billy Graham will be unveiled this week in the U.S. Capitol to represent the state of North Carolina. Correspondent Norman Hall reports.
The 7-foot-tall bronze will be placed in the National Statuary Hall. Graham was the most widely heard Christian evangelist in history, preaching in person to more than 210 million people worldwide. Each state gets 2 statues. The Graham statue will replace one of early 20th century Governor Charles Aycock, who has fallen from favor because of his ties to the white supremacy movement at the time. Norman Hall, Washington.
Google has been the leader in web searches for some time now, but with AI, there's a contender gunning for the title. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech News.
OpenAI plans to announce a new artificial intelligence-powered search engine today, according to sources familiar with the matter. Big tech king Microsoft-backed OpenAI is working on a search product that potentially will compete with Alphabet's Google and with Perplexity, another well-funded AI search startup. The announcement comes just one day before Google's annual I/O conference, where the tech giant is expected to unveil a slew of new AI-related products. Industry insiders often refer to ChatGPT as another source for gathering online information. Newcomer Perplexity AI has recently received more funding to a stock valuation of over $1 billion, with investors like Jeff Bezos and NVIDIA's Jensen Huang. OpenAI still remains the king with over 100 million active monthly users when it launched in 2022. However, traffic has been on a roller coaster ride this year, and the company is under pressure to expand its user base. For more AI info, visit allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
In with sports this Monday, we welcome back Robert Workman.
NBA Conference semifinals, the Pacers pulverized the Knicks Sunday 121-89 to even up their series at 2-2. New York made the first shot of the game and not much else, falling behind by 20 by the end of the first quarter and by as many as 43 while shooting just 34% from the floor. Indiana rested its starters for much of the second half and still shot 57%. Back to New York for Game 5 tomorrow. Nuggets squared up their series with the Timberwolves at 2-all, winning 115-107 in Minnesota. All 4 games won by the visitors so far. 35 for Nikola Jokic. Anthony Edwards had 44 for the Wolves, but his teammates shot just 40%.
I mean, they got the best player in the world, and he's got the ball the entire game. So anytime you make a mistake, he sees it. I mean, it's hard to beat that.
They head back to Denver for Game 5 tomorrow. The Atlanta Hawks, who had just a 3% chance of getting the top pick, won the NBA draft lottery for the first time in franchise history. NHL Stanley Cup playoffs second round in the East, the Panthers rallied from down 2, beating the Bruins 3-2 to take a 3-1 series lead. Florida can clinch a spot in the conference final tomorrow at home. Canucks clipped the Oilers 4-3 to go up 2-1 in their best of 7 in the West. Elias Lindholm and Brock Besser each scored twice. Baseball, the Padres blanked the Dodgers 4-0. Yu Darvish and the Whirlers with a 4-hitter. Guardians shut out the White Sox 7-0. A 6-hitter for Logan Allen and the Wrenches to salvage the finale of the 4-game set. Astros tamed the Tigers. Justin Verlander threw 7 scoreless against his old club.
It moves the needle. I obviously feel the energy a little bit different. You know, you go to most ballparks in the road and you just get booed.
Kyle Tucker hit his major league leading 13th home run. Brandon Nimmo's 2-run homer in the bottom of the 9th gave the Mets a walk-off win over the Braves last night. Extra inning wins for the Marlins, Giants, and Cubs. Rockies completed their weekend sweep of the Rangers. Yankees muscled past the Rays, Jose Trevino with 2 of New York's 5 dingers. And wins for the Royals, Twins, Mariners, Red Sox, Diamondbacks, and Cardinals. That's Monday Sports.
Thank you, sir. When we return on America in the Morning, a Taylor Swift concert on the cheap after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. Welcome back. The apes claimed their kingdom at the movies this weekend. Kevin Carr reports.
After an off weekend last week, audiences went ape at the box office.
Apes will learn, I will learn. And I will conquer.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes climbed atop expectations this weekend with $56.5 million, which is comparable to the performance of its three predecessors in this rebooted science fiction franchise. These films tend to perform better overseas, and this one was right on target with an international haul of $72.5 million.
What a wonderful day!
Last week's winner, The Fall Guy, dropped an expected 50% to catch just under $14 million. The stunt spectacular starring Ryan Gosling will need to clean up overseas to break even.
I'm just a stunt guy!
The sexy tennis film Challengers held on to its third place spot, earning $4.6 million.
What are you going to do now?
Unfortunately, my only skill in life is hitting a ball with a racket.
It's a respectable hold, but doubtful it'll be fully profitable in its theatrical run.
Who's next?
Last week's horror film Tarot took the fourth spot again this week with $3.5 million.
Now I have seen everything.
And Godzilla x Kong stayed in fifth place with $2.5 million.
This is usually my day of rest, but I'm feeling like something.
The only other new wide release, Not Another Church Movie, came in a catastrophic 13th place with a mere $360,000, making it one of the worst performing opening weekends of all time. I'm Kevin Carr.
What are Swifties to do with high ticket prices and likely high hotel prices, too? Correspondent Jennifer King reports Taylor Swift is continuing her concert tour in Europe, and her U.S. fans are following and paying less.
Grab your passport and my hand.
The Paris arena where Swift is performing says Americans bought 20% of the tickets, and in Stockholm, officials estimate 10,000 Americans are coming for her show. Expedia spokesperson Melanie Fish says people notice that a trip to see Swift in Europe, including airfare and hotel, costs about the same as just the concert ticket in the U.S. Expedia says a pattern they call tour tourism emerged during Beyoncé's Renaissance tour. MasterCard says there was a boost in restaurant, hotel, and retail spending near Swift venues in the U.S., and they're expecting the same for her 18-city Eras tour in Europe. Is organizing an overseas family vacation around a favorite artist a trend that will hold? Nashville travel consultant Kat Morga doesn't think so, saying Taylor Swift is a one-off. She's special. Booking Holdings CEO Glenn Fogel agrees, saying the Swift effect causes a blip, but for worldwide travel, one star touring around does not make a difference. I'm Jennifer King.
America in the Morning for Monday, May 13th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.